Hi friends, I'm Amy and this is A Star Reads, and it's time for round number 2 of Squash That Series tournament. So I qualified at the end of round 1. I won my bracket and I'm moving on to the next round, and we are doing teams because that's what came up on the roll. And I'm excited for this because the person I was competing against has now become my cheerleader. And so now we're working together instead of against each other to hopefully help me move on to the next round. Maybe, maybe not, who knows. At least earlier today, I was definitely feeling a little burnt out, a little tired of reading. And so I have switched things up a little bit, just temporarily. But I do want to say that the books that you saw me start in the end of last round are books I'm no longer, at the moment, continuing on with. Ready Player 2, the audiobook I had started, and Catching Fire, you all voted on this. These are not going to make me the most points for this round right now. So I'm definitely going to finish these, but I'm not going to finish them right this second. So I'm putting those down, sad to say, but I got to be strategic. I got to be strategic with my week. So before I go into that, I just wanted to show you the point system, and this is what it's going to look like for this week. So my team can either add points to our team, or we can subtract points from the other team. And I'm gonna try and do some of that, some of the subtracting. So last night I spent a really good portion of time going over all the physical books that I own and seeing where they land with points. And so then I didn't find that the books that I have that are over 500 pages, well, they didn't feel like they would be that worth it. Because for one, I would only be able to read one. I'd be one and done, that would be it. And two, they were both at least 700 pages. So they were really big. They were way over 500 pages. I didn't have anything that was close to 500, which would have been a lot better. And then I noticed that subtracting points from the other team, the ones that I had that were 700 plus pages would subtract quite a few points from the other team. But when I was looking at some of the other books that I had that were less than 500 pages, I just kind of thought it might be easier for me to get through these. And they also subtract a lot of points from the other team. So the 2 physical books that I will be working on this week, I will definitely work on as much as I can of these 2 physical books because I need to be able to finish them within the round for them to count, are Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Alston. This one will get me a lot of points. It is not the finish of a series, but it's catching up on a series because the next book isn't out yet. So that'll subtract points from the other team. It's an owned sequel. I own this. It's been on my TBR for over a year. Has it been on my TBR? Yes, it's been on my, it doesn't have to necessarily be on my physical TBR, but it's been on my TBR for over a year. And it was published in 2022, right? I'm pretty sure this one was published in 2022. Yes. It was also a sequel to a 5-star book. So I gave Amari and the Night Brothers 5 stars. So this is going to give me 100 points, but it also will take away a whole bunch of points from my opponents. So I'm really excited about this one. And since it's middle grade, I hope that even though it's over 400 pages, I can make it through this one. The next one that I'm hoping to get to is the Emma Project by Sonali Dev. This is under 400 pages. It's 300 and something pages. However, this fulfills a lot of the subtract from other teams. This is the finish of a series, so that subtracts 100 points right there. It's been on my TBR for over a year. It was published in 2022. Oh, it was a gift. This was a gift from Natalie from Nat's Cat's Bookish Cafe, and this was a gift from Paige, so I'd be reading 2 gifted books. This is perfect. This is amazing. Thank you to my friends, my amazing friends. Yeah, so it was published in 2022, so I would subtract points for that. Unfortunately, I didn't give any of these 5 stars. I loved them, I enjoyed them a lot, but I didn't give them 5 stars. But there will be a lot of points that I will be able to take off the other team for reading the Emma Project. So these are the physical ones that I plan on reading. And I'm also currently reading I Married Wonjin, which is the 5.5 book. It's by Regine Abel in the I Married a Lizard as Prime Mating Agency series. Because last night, I just needed to pick up something fun and easy. I was getting a little burnt out, and I don't want to get slumpy for this. And I may, at some point this week, maybe, if I'm still needing something as a palate cleanser, I may read I Married a Dryad by Regine Abel, because that would be another installment this round. So that would take off 25 points for that. It wouldn't give me a ton of points otherwise, though. But at least, you know, I would just be taking that break that I might need this week because, yeah, I was a little afraid I was getting slumpy. I might try and pick up A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers, which is the second book in the Monk and Robot series, which I think is going to be finishing a series. At least everything I've heard is that this is just a duology. And I was trying to listen to that on audiobook. It's a very short audiobook, but I just don't think it's the kind of book that I will enjoy as much if I listen to it on audiobook. I was struggling with it, and not that I don't think I will enjoy it because I really did like A Psalm for the Wild Built. I'm getting better at when I know that an audiobook's just not working for me, I soft DNF, not DNF for good, but I know that that shouldn't be an audiobook. Like I should actually physically read that one. So then I ended up picking up the audiobook Vicious Spirits by Kat Cho, and that is working for me. Vicious Spirits by Kat Cho is over 400 pages, so that would give me 100 points. I would be able to finish a series, so subtract 100 points from the other team. It's been on my TBR. I can't say that because I don't think I actually ever clicked it. Like I know I've wanted to read this second book in the series for a while, but I don't think I actually put it on my TBR, so I can't count that. It was published in 2020, so that doesn't work. It wasn't a 5-star. But it would be a finish of the series. That would be it. So I would be able to take 100 points off of my opponent, but I would get 100 points. And that's just from listening to it. So that's the audiobook I'm currently working on. It's a 13-hour audiobook, but I'm listening to it on 1.25 speed. So it'll take me about 11 hours. So that might just get me through the week. I don't know if I'll be able to listen to any other audiobooks, but most likely once I finish that, I will just continue on with Ready Player 2 because I don't want to get too many sequels that I've started and haven't been able to finish. And then if I get these two done, I might just try and pick up Catching Fire and work on that as like a last thing because I'm enjoying this reread and I do want to continue this, but it just wasn't going to be the book that was going to give me the most points for this particular week. I can guarantee you that I'm not going to be able to finish both of these this week. But you know, one can try, right? One can try. I also have not been able to start Jade City, so I think I might have to pick that up and section it out and start reading a little bit every day. It's not going to count towards this readathon, but I have to have this done by the 26th. I was hoping that a round would come up that would allow us to pick first in series, but this particular round does not allow us to pick first in series. So annoying. The spinner wheel is against me. So I probably will break this up and see how much I need to read per day and prioritize that because this one has to get done. So before I forget, Squash That Series is a readathon that's hosted by Bailey from Is Bailey Reading and Kayla from Kayla Ray Reads, two amazing booktubers. I will link down below. I absolutely adore the two of them. And I'm so glad for the work they've put into this, as well as the other people who are also supporting them this time around because I know that it's a lot bigger right now with the tournament. The intention of Squash That Series is to squash series, to get series completed, and every single time Bailey and Kayla come up with different ways to do that. So we have different styles of play every single time. So this one just happens to be a tournament, and there's going to be one winner, one victor at the end. It won't be me. Just gonna be honest, it's not gonna be me, but that's okay because I'm having fun seeing how far I can last. And I am happy to be starting out 2024 completing series, or at least making progress in my series. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. So tonight I'm going to be reading I Married Wonjin before I fall asleep because last night I only got 4 hours of sleep and I'm exhausted. Today was my first day back substitute teaching, and then I had training in the afternoon, and it went well. It just was a little harder because I was exhausted. So tomorrow I'm back at the school where I did my student teaching at with not my 5th graders, but the other 5th graders, which I've already subbed for them before, and I know all the kids. So I'm excited to be going back to kids I already know, and at a school I feel really comfortable and know all the teachers. There's a lot of support there. I'm just happy that I'll be going back there for tomorrow and then half a day on Friday. So that's exciting. That's exciting. I don't have to stress so much about going into a new school, going into a new classroom. It's hard. Like, so I love older grade kids, but substitute teaching with older grade kids is a little harder because when you go and sub for little kids, they're just so excited to have somebody new in the class. They love adults. They're like, I just think you're so cool. But older kids are like, let's see what we can get away with this sub, because she's only going to be here for a short time and she doesn't know what our teacher says we can do and can't do. So it's kind of funny to see what they try to get away with. And usually I have a lot of patience for that, but today I was just too tired. So I was like, oh, what are you doing? And then later on, they came back from recess and they were like, perfect, like angels. And I was like, what happened? What's going on? Oh, and before I run off to go to bed, I got another something. I am being spoiled this year. Being spoiled rotten. Absolutely rotten. Let's see what I got. Hopefully not too rotten. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's right. Jean said there was something coming. Amy, enjoy your gift from Jean. Jean is a friend and subscriber, and she's just absolutely wonderful. And she sent me something. So let's... Oh, this is perfect. Oh, thank you so much, Jean. I'm so excited about this because I listened to The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman this year. I really, really loved it. It was a 5-star read for me. And this is a book that I will read as long as I have 5th graders. I think this is more appropriate for a slightly older crowd. Maybe 4th grade, but definitely 5th grade. If I end up having 5th graders, this is a book I will read to my students because I loved it. I think it's so clever. I think this would be a great, long, but a great read aloud book, especially in the fall time. I have read a little bit of Neil Gaiman, but not nearly enough, and this was the first one that I really absolutely loved of his. So yeah, I'm gonna have to try some more. Thank you so much, Jean. This is very kind, very wonderful. I'm very excited. Hello, hello. It is the evening of the second day of Teams Round, and I just finally finished a book. I read I Married Wonjin by Regine Abel, which is the 5.5 book in the Primating Agency series. I'm going to give it 4 stars. I liked this one a lot, actually, and it got some lower ratings because it's such a short book, and people are like, oh, we wanted more from Wonjin and Lara. But I thought it was perfect. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great to get Wonjin's perspective because he was a character that I really liked in I Married a Minotaur. And I actually think I'm rating this one higher than I Married a Minotaur because I didn't enjoy I Married a Minotaur as much as I wanted to. I thought it was cute. It was fun. It was only 108 pages, but it was just what I needed to wet my whistle to let me now go ahead and get started with some of my series. So I'm going to be starting Amari and the Great Something. Like I said, fighting a migraine. Wait, did I say that? I'm fighting a migraine. And today was a really good day. I was subbing for the other 5th grade class at the school where I did my student teaching at, the ones I subbed for before. And they're wonderful. Really like this class a lot. Just really fun to be in there. And then, of course, I got to see my students. They were like, are you subbing for us today? Before they saw their teacher. And I was like, no. And they were like, what? So then I subbed for the other class, and it was wonderful, except that towards the end, not while the kids were still there, but while I was there finishing up and doing all this stuff, I started getting a migraine. So I've been fighting that this evening. Probably need to take something else. I finally now have inputted one book worth 50 points for me and doesn't take any points away from my opponent's team. And I just feel like I'm really behind because other people have submitted so many things. There are points going back and forth already, and I'm like, it doesn't help that I restarted books. Like, a lot of people are finishing books in this round, and I have just begun 2 books anyway. So I was like, well, I can restart and use books that have more points or have, you know, a better chance of giving me points or taking points away from the other team. But that means I'm starting fresh, so I don't have a lot to submit right now. So I'm going to start on Amari and the Great Game. Is that what it is? And I'm excited about that one in middle grade, so hopefully it won't take too long. But it is over 400 pages, so it'll get me 100 points. And that one should get me a lot of, like, minus points for the other team. And I also need to start Jade City. Because even though this isn't going to work for Squash That Series right now, maybe it'll work in future weeks. But this won't work for this week at all. I do need to make sure I read 31 pages a day to be able to get this book done by the time we have our live show discussion on the 26th with Bookstore Read-Alongs. Good morning. It's Friday, and I got a nice late start today because I'm not going into the class until 11:15. So I've been able to relax a little bit and just take the morning at a slow pace, which is good because I actually had a bit of a migraine hangover this morning. So yesterday was a bit of a rough day, like in the afternoon. Like the school day was great. So as much as I'm excited to see the kids again today, I'm also just feeling a little like I kind of don't feel like working just because I'm just tired. But I took some medication this morning and hopefully that'll hold me through. I'm feeling a lot better than I did when I first woke up. So that's fantastic. Let's talk about where I'm at with everything, because we got an update this morning. And as can be imagined, I only submitted one book so far, and it was a teeny tiny book. I don't think my teammate has submitted anything because they're reading a book that's over 700 pages. So it's looking like we're not going to really have a lot of points coming in until later on in the week, because I'm now 17% of the way through Vicious Spirits by Kat Cho. Really enjoying this so far. Just really happy to be back into this, which is a good thing because when I first read Wicked Fox, the beginning of it took me quite a while to get into. But then I started falling in love with these characters and I really enjoyed them. This one is focusing more on this Dobeki, is that how you pronounce it? It's a goblin, and Somin, who's the friend of one of the main characters, Ji-hoon, from the first book. So we're focusing more on these two, and I actually really like these characters. I like them both a lot. So I'm happy that we're kind of shifting the focus to them because it gives us a bit of a different perspective. I think I had seen that people were upset that we shifted the perspective in this book, but I'm actually all for it. I'm really enjoying these two characters, and I'm enjoying what I'm getting at this point. So that's going well. I'll listen to that more today on my way to and from work. Last night, I did get my 30 pages in for Jade City by Fonda. It was quick. It was easy to read the first 30 pages. The writing is very easily consumable, and I'm intrigued so far. I'm interested. Definitely got those Godfather mob vibes, and I am very curious to see where this goes. We have about 30 more pages that I'm going to do today on our reading sprints, because Bookstar has reading sprints today. So around 5, I'll be doing that and hopefully get through those 30 pages pretty quickly. I'm not a quick reader, and there's a lot of information in this, so I want to make sure I'm staying on top of the information so I don't get buried under it, because there's new people being introduced. At this point, we're focusing on the No Peak clan. They're part of these green bones, these people who are able to access Jade energy. Like, there are people who can touch Jade and they're not affected by it. And these are a very small number of people who can touch it and it doesn't affect them whatsoever. But the larger community of people can't even touch it because it'll just make them waste away. There's a small portion of the community that are like these hybrids who can handle it and who can harness the energy of Jade, but they have to be well trained or else they can also be driven to insanity or, burn themselves out in some way. And so these people that can handle Jade are part of the Green Bones, and there are different clans. So we've got the No Peak clan and the Mountain clan. I think those are the only two that we've actually got names for. There are other smaller clans, but those are the two big ones, No Peak and Mountain. We've seen the magic of the Jade. We've seen what people will go to try and get the power of the Jade, and then what it does to them, like the bad things it does to people who can't handle Jade because it can destroy them in some ways. And then we've gotten to know 3 really important people within the No Peak clan. At the top of the chain is the Pillar. The Horn handles the Fists, which are people who are like the bosses in a sense. And then the Fingerlings are the people who work for the bosses and are basically keeping order, probably making sure that if any problems happen, they're in charge of it. They are kind of like the people who handle things. And then you've got the other side, the Weatherman, and he's the financial guy. He's the one who handles all the business, handles all the money, and he's got a very different perspective than our Horn. So we're seeing the tensions between our Weatherman and our Horn, and then of course the Pillars having to try and bridge that gap between those two. And stuff is starting to happen because there are rumors that the head of the Mountain clan is trying to get ahead of things. She's trying to change things up, and so it will cause tension between the two clans. And in the past, they've had sort of a rivalship, but like a truce in a way. And so they're afraid that she's trying to create bigger problems for them, which would break that truce and cause warfare between the two. So that is my complicated explanation for it, but I think it's fascinating, and I think it's actually pretty easy to read, so I'm excited about that because I was a little worried that it might be a little too complex based on what I've heard people say. And then for my physical book for Squash That Series, I did start Amari and the Great Game, and when I pulled off the cover, look how pretty that is. I didn't realize that it had this embossing on it. And I'm currently on page 66, so I've been struggling a little bit to pick up my book in the last... Reading has been a little hard for me lately. I'm not in a slump, but I am struggling to continuously try and read to try and keep up with this readathon. And so I'm trying to give myself a bit of a break. But I did make some progress, and because it's a middle grade, this one's gonna read more quickly than other books that I've read, which is great. And so far, I'm interested, I'm excited. It's fun to be back with Amari and some of the characters that we got to know in Amari and the Night Brothers. I don't really want to say too much about this because I don't want to give anything away from the first book, but Amari is this young girl who doesn't know anything about the magical supernatural world until she tries to find out more information about her brother who's gone missing. People believe he might be dead, and she finds out he was actually an agent for the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations, and something happened to him in the previous book that caused him to go missing or what have you. So then Amari, in the process, ends up joining the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations, or becoming a student of trying to learn how to be part of the Bureau, and finding out more about her magic and finding out more about herself within this world of supernatural creatures. Like, she's just getting thrown into this. And it was fascinating. It was great action, really fun book. Loved the first one. I gave it 5 stars. I really did love that one. And I'm hoping I will love this one as much. I, so far, am enjoying it, but not feeling 5 stars at the moment. It could also be that I'm just not in a reading mood at the moment. So I'm just trying to plug away as much as I can here and there. And as I get into the story even more, am refamiliarized with all these characters, I'm sure that I'll just get into the groove. Bookstar Reading Sprints! Woohoo! Good morning! It's Saturday, and technically our 4th day of round number 2. I know that my vlogging this week is not going to be the most interesting because I haven't had any B-roll. I've been focusing on getting back to work, and then when I get home, I'm exhausted, so I haven't really done much. But as you did see, last night we had live sprints for Bookstar read-alongs, and that was fantastic. Just great to be able to get back together with really good friends, and of course everyone in the chat who typically show up anyways, or at least people that we often see in our Bookstar read-along sprints that we got to chat with as well. Like, a great group of people. Bookstar is such a good group. It feels like a little family. We've got our little family of Bookstar read-along people. So I'm very excited about that, and I did get my pages in for Jade City yesterday, and I'm really starting to enjoy that a lot. At this point, I talked about the Pillar, who is Lan, and the Horn, who is Hilo. Well, their sister has come back. Her name is Shay, and she is really rebelling, or she has rebelled against the family. She doesn't want to be part of the Green Bones. She wants to make her own way in life, and yet she's come back home because she misses it so much, and living in a different country was not the answer for her. But she's still determined to stay away from all the drama of the Green Bones. So we'll see how that goes, because her one brother, her younger brother, Hilo's like, we need you. You have to be a part of this. And her older brother's trying to be understanding of it. I also think that there's some interesting characters being introduced into this so far. Like, Hilo's got a bit of a girlfriend, and I'm not sure how I feel about her. And then the weatherman, the left-hand person to the Pillar, I just don't know that I trust him. And I think a lot of people of the younger generation are showing that they don't trust him so much, or that they don't think he's going to lead them in the way that they need to be led from that perspective, from the business perspective. And so we'll see how that goes. I know that this is a story overall where you really become invested in these characters, and horrible things end up happening to them, or really tragic things. So this will eventually tear our hearts out, is what we were agreeing with last night. And I don't want to say I'm looking forward to that, but I'm looking forward to caring about the characters that much. And I can already tell that I'm really interested in Lan. He's definitely my kind of character. I'm like, Lan. And then I'm interested in all the characters, to be honest. The grandfather's difficult, but I definitely think that Lan is going to be someone who I will be invested in. Same with Shay. Hilo, he's definitely a slightly more difficult character to like because he's got more of an explosive personality, and that can be good, but it also can be dangerous. So we'll see how things go there. But yeah, I'm really just excited about getting into this series. I've been curious about it for so long, and I'm just happy that the writing is pulling me in right away, because sometimes with these thick fantasies, it can be difficult to get into them, and it just takes longer to enjoy the process. Then last night while we were doing our sprints, we were talking a bit about none of us have done the team's version of Squash That series, so we don't necessarily know the best strategies for it. Other people who have done it before are being way more successful in what they're doing because they have strategies that they've already developed. And so one of the things I was thinking about, because I was really looking at my books when I was planning for this and thinking about which ones will get me the most points for myself, but then also take away the most points for the other team. And the problem with that is that it takes me a while to read these larger books. And even though Amari and the Great Game is going to give me a lot of points, it's going to take a while to get through this. So I started thinking maybe I should look at the series I have to continue and find really short ones, and just start trying to get some of those read too, because then they will add to the scores, even if they don't add as much, because if it takes me less than an hour, I get less points for it, but at least I'm then still submitting things. So last night I ended up reading Turned at Dark by C.C. Hunter. This is the 0.5 series in the Shadowfall series, and this is one that I had mentioned. I have the next in the series, Whispers at Moonrise, and I was like, oh, well, I could read some of the novellas for these different series that I want to read. And I was able to find this one on Kindle. And I read it last night, and it took less than an hour. So I definitely am going to get less points for it. But at least I was able to submit something else. And this was all about Della. So in the Shadowfall series, we have our main character. I can't remember her name right now, but we have our main character, and she is starting to have some strange things happen to her. Her life is kind of going down the tubes, but she doesn't understand why. And her mother sends her to this camp called Shadowfalls Camp, which she believes to be like a continuation camp, but it turns out it's a camp for supernaturals because someone has seen that she is showing supernatural abilities. Not her mom. Her mom doesn't know. And she is there to learn how to control these abilities. And so she starts learning about this whole supernatural world that she didn't know anything about. And one of her bunkmates, the people that she shares a cabin with, is Della. And Della is a vampire. And so this teeny little novella really was talking about when Della was turned into a vampire, what caused her to be turned into a vampire, and what her reactions and everything were. That's really all this was about. And I gave it 3 stars. You know, it was great to find out. I don't know that it was necessary. We get enough information about Della and her experience turning into a vampire through the series that I don't know if I needed this. But it was fun to read, and it added some points, and it took less than an hour, so I feel pretty good about that. So then this morning I continued working on Amari and the Great Game, and this is one I can't tell you much about because I don't want to spoil anything about the first book. I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun being back with these characters. It's not put downable yet, though, so I haven't got to a point where I'm just like, oh, I gotta keep reading, and I really need to be feeling that right now. Especially because, you know, I need to get this one done because this one will give me great points for this particular round. So I'm going to keep reading it today. I'm currently on page 104, but yeah, I just am not quite as sucked in yet as I would like to be with that one. But it's cute and it's fun, and I'm just going to keep trying. I've also decided to go back and look at some of those really short novellas that will continue some of my series, and I'm now going to read Juice Like Wounds by Seanan McGuire. This is the 4.5 book in the Wayward Children series, and this is still about Lundy. And I think In an Absent Dream, which was the 4th book, was probably my least favorite so far. That might not be true. That might not be my least favorite, but it definitely wasn't one of my favorites. And so I'll be interested to see what I get from this little mini story, because Lundy's story wasn't my most exciting story of the Wayward Children series, let's put it that way. And I wasn't as into the Goblin Market as I wanted to be. Just wasn't a setting that I enjoyed as much. That being said, I'm excited that I can read this little teeny story, and, you know, I don't know if it'll take me more or less than an hour, but I put a timer on so I can see how long it ends up taking me to read, and then I can go back and at least account for more points. You know, I'm trying to get as many points as I possibly can, even if it's less points because it's a shorter story. These little ones that take me a short amount of time to read are great ways to get some points up on the board. I just feel like I haven't been able to submit much, and I'm like, everybody else is submitting so many, so I'm getting like really nervous. But it is also helping me get through some of the novellas in the series that I've been reading, and I didn't even think about that. Okay, so I think I know what this is about. In An Absent Dream, the book, there was a section where we find out that something happens to a character within it, and we're not really told exactly what. Like, the story wasn't given to us. We just know that things changed, and I feel like there was this big plot jump in the story. We lost a lot of what had happened. That was one of the biggest problems I had with this, was that I felt like we were getting part of the story and then we jump forward to a future time and all the stuff that happened in between was left out. And that was a bit frustrating for me. I think that was a big part of the reason why I didn't enjoy In An Absent Dream as much as I could have. And it seems like this story answers one of the things that we find out happens. Like, it tells the tale of this one event that happens that causes changes to happen in An Absent Dream that we don't see. It's all off page. We don't actually see anything that happens. So now in Juice Like Wounds, we're getting a chance to find out what happens during this one portion of the story. It's not going to tell us everything that happened within Lundy's experience in the Goblin Market, but it will tell us this one thing. Okay, so I just finished Juice Like Wounds, and it was definitely a sad little tale, which I expected. I will say that the villain of this had some very interesting points, and maybe, well, it made me think about why I dislike the Goblin Market so much. And, I mean, I say dislike. Why the Goblin Market wasn't one of my favorite settings. And I feel like the villain hit the nail on the head. And so that makes sense. And it is interesting. And it made me think about the series as a whole and some of the things that trouble me about the series. But it's also interesting because it's important to the series. And I can't tell you, so I can only be very vague. But let's just say that I have a very strong affinity with children because I'm a teacher and because I care about children and I want to see them safe and taken care of and healthy and loved. It's a difficult series, the Wayward Children series, because we're seeing children put in very dangerous situations. And their childhood is not always taken into account in these situations. The fact they are children is not taken into account. And that makes it hard. And I know that's the intention. Like, it's not necessarily like Seanan McGuire is not being mindful of that. It's more like the mindful of it, the reality of it. It harkens back to old fairy tales, you know, where horrible things would happen. And you're like, but this is just a fairy tale. And you see these terrible things happening, which are very scary for children to read. But then imagine experiencing those things too. And I feel like it does parallel those old-fashioned, frightening fairy tales, and it brings a little bit more reality to it. That fear that those children have reading those old fairy tales. In this situation, it's almost like you're putting the children in those horrifying fairy tales. I've always thought Seanan McGuire's writing is incredibly fascinating and clever, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the short story. I'll probably give it a 4-star. I haven't given anything in this series. I thought I had given Down Among the Sticks and Bones a 5-star. Or no, not Down Among the Sticks and Bones, but what was the next one? The one after that, the one in the candy world. I loved that one. I thought I had given that a 5-star, but I didn't. I gave it a 4.5. So I didn't get any points on this one for a sequel to a 5-star, which I kind of hoped I would, but I didn't. I did get points for obviously reading it, but less points because it was less than an hour. And then I'll get points for it being on my TBR for over a year. But that's it. So I need to keep reading. I got to get through these books that have a lot of points, but I'm also just trying to get some of these small point books out of the way so that I can get some immediate points. Good morning. We're coming up close. It is now Sunday, so the 5th day of week 2. And I did end up reading and submitting another book last night, but it was a very small one. I read Grimm by Layla Fae. This is the second in the, I don't know, some kind of monster smut series. The first one was Jack, which I read over a year ago. I think not this past Halloween, but the Halloween before. And it was definitely smutty, nice and short, quick little read so I could get some points in. Not nearly as shocking as the first one, maybe I should say. And so maybe I think I enjoyed the shocking element of the first one a little bit more, whereas this one was definitely a little more sweet and tender. And, you know, there was still smut, obviously, and it's mostly a smutty erotica story. However, I just thought that this one was just a little less fun than Jack was. Jack was fun. I know that a lot of people really had a hard time with it, but I just thought it was fun. And this particular story was about this young woman and a Grim Reaper. And that's probably all I'm going to tell you about it, because it's such a short story that if you really want to know what it's all about, then go ahead and pick it up. It's on Kindle Unlimited. I made it over halfway in Come Tumbling Down by Seanan McGuire, and I'm really enjoying that. I wouldn't say that at this point it's my favorite of all of the books, but we have characters that are coming back into it, a certain set of twins that come back into this one, and I'm enjoying being back with these characters because I really did like them. And we're in a setting that we've been in one of my favorite books of this series. So I am enjoying that. I think I'm about halfway, and hopefully I can finish that today and get some points for that one. What I realized, though, is that I didn't do my Jade City reading yesterday. So see that wedge right there? That's what I got to complete today. So yeah, after I have my coffee and my breakfast, I'm going to be doing 2020s today, because yesterday I really was just lazy all day long. It was great. I was recouping from my first week back working, and today I need to get stuff accomplished. So for my 2020s, which means I do 20 minutes, like I set a timer, every 20 minutes I switch what I'm doing up so that I get things accomplished. I want to work on editing my vlog. Oh, I did start editing my day 9 advent calendar challenge vlog yesterday. So I want to keep working on that. I want to keep reading. I need to do laundry. I need to do dishes. There's other things that need to get done. That's the plan for today. Not very exciting, but gonna get stuff accomplished.
Howdy everyone. Welcome to Flow, your 30-day yoga journey. It's day 4.
Are you gonna do yoga, Isaac? Is that what you're doing down here?
He's gonna do it, yes.
Can you keep up?
He's pretty agile.
Keep up? Okay, so it's the evening now, and today went well. The 2020s went pretty well. I got quite a bit done on my vlog editing. I was reading Jade City and haven't finished the reading I need to do for that section yet, but I made it pretty far and I feel really good about what I've read so far today. So I may continue to read that tonight, or I may just be working on Amari and the Great Game. I did finish Come Tumbling Down by Seanan McGuire, and I'm going to give this 4.25 stars. I really did enjoy it. It did get to a point where I cried. I didn't think I would, because there were a lot of moments in it where there were sad moments, but it didn't. A lot of these characters tend to not show their emotion so well, you know, because they're either stoic or they just are hiding what they're feeling. And yet there was one moment definitely in this one where I got choked up and I started little tears coming down. But I really did like the way this one continued on the story, worked through things with these characters, these specific characters, and I'm excited about reading the next one. I don't know when I'll read it, but I'm excited about reading. Maybe I'll read it soon. Maybe I'll read it during this month. And the nice thing about this one is that when it came to points, I was able to get extra points taken off for this one because it's another installment this round. So I read Juice Like Wounds, that 4.5 short story, and then I was able to read this one, and it's the second one I'm reading for this particular round. So that was great because it took extra points. And we got an update earlier in Discord, and this is apparently the tightest race, or at least we're the closest to each other compared to all the other teams. So that actually bodes well for me, especially since that update came before I submitted Come Tumbling Down. And if I can make progress in Amari and the Night Brothers, like real progress, that one will give me so many points and take away so many points from the other team. So I need to work on that one. I've also been listening to my audiobook. Today, I listened to Vicious Spirits, and I think I'm around 40-something percent, 43%. And if I can get that one done before Tuesday, that one will also give me a lot of points. So that would be a good one to finish too. Look at those pretty girls with their pretty hair. Mom got her hair done. Woohoo! Get the light shining through it. Yeah. I finally got some color in my hair. It's been over a year since I got my hair done.
That's right.
And then we decided to treat ourselves, because we needed it, with crumble cookies. So I subbed half a day with kindergartnens. That was an experience. It was great. They were wonderful, but whew, kindergarten is definitely different than 5th grade. And then we went and got our hair done. And tomorrow we may be getting at least tonight, we may be getting a ton of snow.
Yeah, 5 to 8 inches.
Yeah. If they don't call snow day, then I'm going to be half day subbing for middle school PE. That'll be interesting. Okay, so I'm home and I watched the Tuesday live show where we found out what the next round is, and it's going to be tiers, and I'll tell you all about that in the next vlog. So I'm excited about that because I already have a plan for it. I already have a plan, and we're supposed to fulfill 10 prompts, and I can do it with 5 books. So I'm hoping that that'll work. Don't know that I can read 5 books in a week, but I could try. And some of them are small, so it might be a good week for me. So now that I have my plan for next week, I need to focus on finishing today because I have until 10 p.m. to finish 2 books. I don't know that I'm going to be able to do it, but I'm going to try. So I can definitely get Amari and the Great Game finished. I'm currently on page 378, and I have only until 420 something. 423? Yeah. So I've got about 50 pages left of Amari and the Great Game. And we're right at the end, so it should go quickly because of all the action. And then for my audiobook for Vicious Spirits, which I really would like to finish also for this, I am at 71%. And I think I have 3 hours and 20 minutes left of that. So I may bump up the audiobook to 1.5. I don't like doing that. Because I don't want to, yeah. We'll see. We'll see how long it takes to finish this. I'm going to work on finishing this first. 6 currently. I have until, I have 4 hours. There's no way I'm getting both of these done. Well, this one's worth way more points, so I'll definitely get this one done. And then I'll see what I can do with my audiobook, but that's not looking as good. I'm close, but yeah, sometimes these things don't happen. So either way, whether or not I'm actually fighting for my title next week, or if I'm just a cheerleader, I at least have a plan. So I know what I'm gonna be doing, and I'm excited about that. All right, I'm going to go and work on this. So we'll see how it goes. I'll catch up with you in a little bit and let you know at 10 p.m. if I've actually made it where I needed to go. Okay, so there is about 20 minutes left until this round is over, but I am done. I'm not doing any more. I probably could do a little more, but I'm not going to. And I finished the 2 books that I wanted to. So I finished Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Alston. I'm going to give this one 5 stars. I think it was fantastic. I think it's a great middle grade. I think it's one of those series that, as long as more kids are introduced to this series, they're going to fall in love with it. In fact, I brought it to class the other day to read, like, while the kids were reading and stuff. And one of the boys in the class was like, "What are you reading?" And I told him I was reading this. And he's like, "Oh, I love that series. It's so good. You're on the 2nd book? Oh my gosh, it's so good. I actually like the 2nd book even more than I like the 1st book." And it was really fun to talk to him about the books. I couldn't talk to him too much about it because I was pretty early on. And he's like, "How far along are you?" Because he didn't want to spoil anything. Of all the series I hear my students talking about, this isn't one of them. So I was glad to hear that some of them know about it. And I definitely want to be introducing this to more students because I think this is a fantastic magic fantasy series that children will love because the action is high-paced. It's got that wonderful school setting. And there's characters that you can really identify with in here. I think there's really kind, caring, genuine characters, but then there's also villains that you love to hate because they're awful. So I love this series. It definitely leaves you at a point where you'd need the next book, and so I hope that comes out soon. It's probably coming out in the next year, and I will definitely be picking that up. Thank you, Paige, because I loved it. Secondly, I did finish Vicious Spirits. I actually did kick it up to 1.5, and that was good. It wasn't my favorite way of listening to it. I would have preferred to keep it at 1.25, but I wanted to make sure I got it done before my time was up. And I did. And I really enjoyed this one. I think I actually enjoyed this one better than Wicked Fox because I started out Wicked Fox not loving it as much as I had wanted to. Like, my initial reaction to Wicked Fox was, ooh, I don't know if I like the characters. I don't know if I like the way it's written, like the actual style of the writing. But I got into it. I really got into the story. I really got into the characters. I love all the folklore elements. There's little folklore stories that happen sometimes in between chapters where you learn more about the characters and things that are happening in their life because of these little folklore tales that they tell you. And I just think that's clever. I really liked that, and I'm glad that it carried through into this book. Also, because I knew the characters and I already really liked them, going into this book, I just enjoyed myself. I didn't have that beginning portion of it where I was like, I'm going to enjoy this, which was how I felt about Wicked Fox. And then I ended up really enjoying Wicked Fox. So I gave that one a 4-star. This one I'm giving a 4.25 star because it still is a little too angsty and not, I don't know, it is really good. And the audiobook is really good. It just didn't quite hit that 4.55 star for me, even though I did really, really enjoy this read. I loved the characters' perspective that we switched over to. We still had the characters that we had from the first book, but really we switched perspective a lot to 2 other characters that we did meet and we got to know fairly well in the first book. I really loved those characters in the first book, so getting their perspective in this one worked for me. And so I was really happy about that. And of course, we still did end up having time with the other 2 characters from the first book. They just weren't the main focus anymore. I thought it wrapped up really well so that, you know this is a duology because there's not really much else I would imagine is going to happen going forward. So I think this was a great series. I'm glad I wrapped it up. It feels good to actually finish a series. So I'm going to have to go over and mark off all the series that I've read in my book. We'll do that. And then we'll close this out. Okay, so it's time to update my series booklet. And the first one we're going to start out with was A Mirror Mended. That was the second book in the Fractured Fables series. And that is, at least to my knowledge, at this point, finishing out this series. There may be another one, but I just don't know if it's going to happen. So for now, I'm going to say that this is done. Yay! Yeah, because this was a couple years ago that she did the second one. And I don't know, the way it ended, I could picture that being the end of it. Although maybe there's some way they could go back and do more. I don't know. Then we've got the Prime Mating Agency, which is I Married Wonjin. And for that one, we're here. That is a 5.5. So that's this one right there. Then I read, let's see, the Wayward Children series. Where's that? Here it is. Okay. So I read the 4.5 book, Juice Like Wounds. Then I read the Shadowfall series. Where is that one? Oh, here it is. I don't know how I missed that. Okay, so I read the 0.5 book here in the Shadowfall series. And then the Monster Ever After series. I read Grimm, so the second book in that series. Then I went back to Wayward Children series. And that's over here. And I finished Come Tumbling Down, which is the 5th book. So making some progress in that series. And I finished in the Supernatural Investigation series. Right here. Amari and the Great Game. And I do know there's a 3rd book coming out for that. And then finally, finishing a series, woohoo! The Gumiho series, which is... Yes, it's here. The Gumiho series. Oh, right next to the Fractured Fables. So I can mark these ones as being done. So mark them off my list. And yeah, I mean, It may not look like a lot of progress, but I was able to mark a whole bunch off there. Yeah, down here, here, Wayward Children series. Yeah, I got quite a few I was able to mark off. So, you know. Oh, how many series does that mean I currently have going? So even though I have this written here, I know that I have 98. One of them is the Jade City series. The other one I can't really talk about yet. But I have 98 series, and let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 98 minus 20 is 78. Wow, it really doesn't feel like I crossed off 2. And because I have 2 I have to add, I guess I just didn't. Yes, I still have. Yeah, okay, so 78 series. 78 series. Okay, that's fine because I made progress. I'm feeling good about it. And I did cross off 2 series. Okay, well, you know, progress has been made. And that's where I'm at the end of week 2. Okay, so that's it. That's what has been going on for all of week 2. And I'm really excited to find out what happens in week 3. I don't know yet at this point whether or not I have made it through or I'm just going to be a cheerleader next week. I shouldn't say just going to be a cheerleader, but if I'm going to be a cheerleader next week, I'm very excited for that. If I'm going to continue on in the competition, the competitive side of me is very excited for that. The other side of me is like, oh, it's more stress. More pressure. Oh no. So we will see. Let me know in the comment section down below if you've read any of these series and if you liked them or if you didn't care for them so much. I am reading quite a variety at the moment, and especially in this video because I did a lot of shorter stories that were like novellas or 0.5s in series because I was trying to get books read. So I'd love to hear some of your thoughts, and if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe so you can see what happens during week 3. What's going to happen during week 3? Am I going to, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to read more series. That's what I'm going to do. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later. Bye.